I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlelady yields back, and now recognize Mr. Crenshaw, 5 minutes.
Thank you, the chairman and ranking member. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here. HHS deals with a lot of stuff, so you've gotten a lot of different questions today, and you're going to get another one. I'm only focused on 2 pages. I'm focused on 2 pages of HHS guidance on quite a controversial subject. Well, it's controversial up here. It's actually not very controversial in the public. It involves gender-affirming care on young people, on children, on minors. It's not controversial in the public. 70% think that we should not do gender-affirming care and hormone therapy, puberty blockers on children under 18. I bet that number is much higher if you ask them about, a double mastectomy on a 12-year-old girl. And yet, HHS guidance, it's only 2 pages, is very clear in what HHS believes, which is that gender-affirming care is great. There's nothing but good things coming out of gender-affirming care. You should just believe a child immediately if they say they're a different gender and put them first on puberty blockers, a month later on hormones, and then put them in the physical body that they believe they should be in. I mean, that's very, very radical stuff and obviously very consequential. You're making permanent physiological changes to a child, and you would think that if you're going to do something like that, that we would have an unbelievable amount of evidence to show that it indeed results in positive outcomes. I mean, you'd agree with that at least, right? That you'd want the evidence.
So first, Congressman, I have to say that nowhere what you've described do we say in any document from HHS. We do not make these flat statements, as you've said.
All right,
What we
I'll
do
read
is
it.
say we follow what the medical practitioners
I'll read
say
it.
is the
I'll read it
best
for you.
science.
If you don't believe me, I'll read it for you. So this is from HHS Office of Population Affairs. It says, it allows children, adolescents to focus on social transition and can increase their confidence while navigating the healthcare system. Research demonstrates that gender-affirming care improves the mental health and overall well-being of gender-diverse children and adolescents. Medical and psychological gender-affirming healthcare practices have demonstrated to yield lower rates of adverse mental health outcomes, build self-esteem, improve overall health quality for transgender, gender-diverse youth. Nowhere in here does it say there's any possibility of anything bad happening. Nothing negative at all in these 2 pages. It says that puberty blockers are reversible. There's really no evidence for that. Anytime you cite something in here, it's a study that is at the most recent is from 2021, all of which have very serious problems with them. They're all surveys, first of all. They're not really studies. There's not like a double-blind, randomized controlled trial going on here. And in some cases, 14% actually received the hormones. And many of these studies are not even just on children, and most of the participants are over 18. So you can't really determine any kind of causation. And bottom line, none of them are systematic reviews. If nothing else, you might agree that systematic reviews are the gold standard of evidence, right? A systematic review, for anyone listening, doesn't mean a study. It means a systematic review of all of the studies. One just came out, like last week, the CAS review, which... we're just going to put up this diagram here. One of the things it pointed out was how all of these studies that have been cited by all of these radical ideological medical associations that are lying to parents and doctors showed how they cite each other in this sort of circular reasoning in order to make their point. And HHS should not fall victim to that. HHS you are relying on studies that match this much paper. These are the studies that you cite. This is the CAS review that just came out. That's a systematic review. That's the evidence that they're pushing out. That came from the British doctor, Hilary Cass. That's a huge difference in evidence. And that's a really big deal when we're talking about something as consequential as permanent physiological changes to children. I mean, right? Can I get maybe some agreement from you that you might want to take another look at this particular document from HHS, which is relying on old data, data that's from studies that have really been debunked in many ways. Can we at least look at it one more time?
Congressman, I can assure you that we look at all studies because the services that we provide are based on an understanding what the best available science and evidence are. When we talk about a standard of care, it's not something we make up. It's based on what the major medical associations, by the way, those radical associations you mentioned, many of your colleagues are members of those so-called radical medical associations.
Yeah, and they would probably agree that they've become radicalized. Let me tell you something about standards of care.
So you don't want me to finish the answer?
Let me talk. The CAS review also studied, and they ranked 23 standards of care from all the countries. You know which ranked second to last? All of the ones you're citing here. The ones that you guys use. They ranked last as far as standard of care practice, as far as how good they are compared to other countries. That's a really damning statement from a systematic review from a very, very well-respected group of doctors. You are not relying on the best data. You're just not. And that is terrifying for our children. I'm out of time and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Countries around the world are banning this stuff. The United States is behind. I recognize Mr. Balderson, 5 minutes.
Thank you,